By the late 90s, Pokémon wasn't just popular, it was everywhere. The games, the anime, the cards, the merch. If you were a kid, you couldn't escape it. Pokémon Red and Blue was such a huge success in the West that the world were waiting for what was next, a sequel. After the original games exploded worldwide, Game Freak didn't slow down. They went straight to work on the next generation of Pokémon. And this wasn't just a sequel, this was their chance to push the Game Boy to its limits. Development on Pokémon Gold and Silver actually began in 1997 while the rest of the world was still completely obsessed with Red and Blue. But the team at Game Freak had an ambitious plan to introduce 100 brand new Pokémon and add in additional features like the Pokégear, ability to breed Pokémon, and the day-night cycle. And just when that sounded impossible enough, they took it one step further. After you beat the main game, you could actually travel back to explore the entire Kanto region from the first game. Basically, they crammed 2 full Pokémon games into one cartridge. It was one of the most ambitious Game Boy projects ever made, and somehow they pulled it off. Pokémon Gold and Silver finally released in Japan in November 1999, and almost instantly became a must-have game of the year. When they arrived in the West in the year 2000, the hype was unreal. The colours looked amazing on the Game Boy Color. You could hatch eggs for the first time, berries grew on trees in real time, and some Pokémon even evolved differently depending on whether it was day or night. At the time, this was absolutely mind-blowing. Remember, this was an era where Snake on the Nokia was considered cutting-edge mobile gaming. For me, Pokémon Silver wasn't just another game, it was my first Pokémon game, and honestly, it's still my most nostalgic game to date. They instantly take me back to being a kid again, sitting back of a long car journey, Game Boy in hand, totally lost in the world of Johto. It wasn't just about catching Pokémon, it was about the adventure, and about that feeling of exploring a whole new world, and about the magic of childhood discovery. Even now, when I hear the opening theme or the Pokémon Center music, it's like flipping through pages of an old photo album, but the memories are still alive and moving. It's likely one of the reasons why I started learning Japanese 8 years ago. A little while ago, I managed to get my hands on the original Japanese copy of Pokémon Silver. At first, this was to be just a collectible, but I decided to play through it again, but this time with a fresh new perspective. In this series, I'm going to play the original Japanese version the way it was intended and explore how Pokémon Silver was written, translated and localized. And this is because there are some really fascinating differences hidden in here. For example, certain lines of dialogue carry completely different tones or meanings, some Pokémon names are totally different in Japanese, and there are subtle cultural references that were completely reworked for Western audiences. Since the entire game is written in kana and no kanji, it's actually pretty approachable for Japanese learners, especially if you're around the JLPT N3 or N4 level. So whether you're a nostalgic Pokémon fan, a language nerd, or just here for a laugh, welcome aboard. This is the localization Pokémon Silver. Let's dive in. The journey starts with our main character, Zero. This is New Barktown, where Zero grew up and lives with his mum. In Japanese, New Barktown is actually called Wakaba, meaning young leaves. This can be metaphorical for the start of something new and setting off on a new journey. New Barktown is also based off a real place in Japan, which is called Hanamatsu, in the Shizuoka prefecture, and this is common with a lot of Japanese areas. Johto, in fact, is based off real-life Kansai in Japan. Fun fact, in the original development prototype for this game, the first town in the 1997 Space World demo build of Pokémon Gold and Silver was actually called Silent Hill, a name that was later changed to New Barktown in the final release. The area was a prototype for the final New Barktown's lab and featured different map layouts and graphics. It was changed to New Barktown, and in later releases of the games, for example Soul Silver and Heart Gold, they added wind and wind farms. I want to get out of this house and actually start the journey, but Zero's mum comes in and lets me know that the professor is looking for me. In both English and Japanese, the dialogue is the same, aside from one small part. In English, but not in Japanese, they have an extra bit of dialogue, the mention of daylight savings. Okay mum, what a weird way to get me to come home. But this dialogue is completely missed in the Japanese version. This is due to Japan not having a daylight saving time. Life was very hard after the war, and they believed that daylight saving time just made the days even longer. Now she's finished speaking, We go into the lab and see what the professor is looking for. In the Japanese version, Professor Elm is not called Professor Elm. Instead, it's called Utsugi. Utsugi refers to the flowering shrub in Japanese botanical naming. The choice of Utsugi fits with the Pokemon tradition of professors having plant or nature-themed names, i.e. oak, birch, rowan, etc. Utsugi wouldn't make any sense in English, hence they changed it to elm. In the last series of Pokemon Green, we went through each Pokemon we came across and explained what it is in Japanese. We won't repeat any Kanto Pokemon we catch along the way, but any new Johto Pokemon we catch will be broken down into similar detail. For example, we have Cyndaquil. Cyndaquil in Japanese is Hi no Arashi, which is Hi for fire, Arashi for storm, so basically firestorm. We also have Totodile, which in Japanese is Wani no ko, which is Wani, crocodile, and Ko, child, the child of crocodile.
Whoo! Danger, danger, danger.
Chikorita is the same in English and basically carried over in Japanese kana. The name is likely built from a chicory, a plant, and ita, which is Spanish diminutive. We leave Professor Utsugi and start our adventure. Hang on, what's this weird kid doing behind the lab? I'm going to call him Silver, and this time he's up to no good. The English translation is very similar, which is essentially questioning the lab and why it's so special. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of him later. We make our way through the wild grass for the first time, getting a taste of the battle mechanics. We pass Route 30 to get to the next town, Cherry Grove City, and we're greeted by this lovely old man.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
Wonder what he wants.
Hello!
In both the Japanese and English version, he says the same things. However, in Japanese, it translates to be a bit more fun and light-hearted, rather than a simple tutorial. This is conveyed using his language style, which is similar to a wise old man, saying words such as washi, which is what the older generation would say, instead of watashi, the normal Japanese word for I. As the old man is given this tour, I noticed the Pokémon Center is a bit different in the Japanese version compared to the European US version, with an image of a Pokeball. According to the cutting room floor, in both the Japanese and Korean version, the Pokemon Center signs in Johto have a Pokeball drawing with the letters PC next to it. In the international versions, the sign was changed back to one used in Generation 1 games, i.e. with no Pokemon logo. Here are some of the theories behind why that is. Well, one is a localization reason. PC in English is commonly understood as personal computer. There could have been concerns about this, or the sign may have been misinterpreted. Anyway, we finish the tour and receive an extra item for our Pokegear. The Pokemon map feature is another thing I noticed to be slightly different in the English version. I had a look into this. In the international versions, the region map got a layout tweak. They made the grey border go all the way around the map in both Town Map and Pokegear, and shifted the header text upwards. This was done to leave more space to display longer localized area names. Cherry Grove City is a small town, but what was it called in the original version? In Japanese, Cherry Grove City is called Yoshino City, a direct nod to the Yoshino region, famous for its cherry blossoms, but when localizing the game, the name was swapped for something that would resonate with English speakers while still keeping it natural. Therefore, Cherry Grove City was coined. Anyway, we skip forward to the task at hand, which is meeting this Pokemon Grandpa. I get a mystery egg and a Pokédex. Wonder what was in this egg. Both Japanese and English are similar, so we won't dive into this. On the way back, we're stopped by a familiar face. What's he doing? When he chats to Zero, he says some typical villain talk about wanting to be the strongest Pokemon trainer, blah blah blah. Interestingly, his speech in Japanese is very rude and direct, using the word ore for I, which is typically masculine, and villains always use it, including Giovanni, the rocket boss from the first game. Interesting. Additionally, as Silver declares his ambition, there is a particle at the end of the sentence he uses, which is sa, and this is easy to miss, but it's a key part of his voice. It's a casual, confident ending that adds swagger. In English, this line simply becomes, I'm going to be the world's greatest Pokemon trainer. The meaning is still there, but that cocky, almost smirking tone of the Japanese is smoothed out. It's like the difference between someone calmly saying, I'll win, and someone smirking, of course I'll win. We head back towards the lab and find out that one of the Pokemon has just been stolen.
What?
They stole it from us.
Wonder who that could be. After getting some Pokeballs and moving onward, we catch a few Pokemon unique to the Johto area. First we catch Sentret. Sentret in Japanese is Otachi, likely from O, meaning tail, and Tachi, meaning standing, so literally standing tail. But why Otachi? Sentret is known for standing upright on its tail to scout for danger. The Japanese name directly describes it with its recognizable behavior, literally a Pokemon that stands on its tail. Simple, descriptive, and very Japanese style naming, focusing on its physical traits. In English, Sentret comes from potentially sentinel, a guard or lookout, and ferret. It's a clever localization because instead of describing the behavior literally, like in Japanese, the English name blends traits and roles into something that feels natural as a creature name in English. We come across our first trainer. Wait, he looks familiar. I've seen all the memes about this infamous trainer Joey, who reportedly calls you regarding his Rattata. In Japanese, his name's actually Goro. Both names convey just some kid you'd meet earlier on. But Goro feels more local in Japan, while Joey feels more approachable to Western players. It's a great example of how the translators adapted rather than directly translating names. He gives us our phone number, and I have a feeling this isn't the last time we'll hear from Goro. We make our way through a number of other trainers until we reach the next town, which in English is called Violet City. Just for a bonus, I'll now go into why you've probably clicked on this video. This little extra is something that I'll talk a bit more about in the series, which are censorship changes. For example, the beauty. In the original Japanese version, the beauty is winking and has a short skirt, but in the international release, the pose was slightly changed. This was that the skirt was made longer and she's no longer winking. According to the cutting room floor, this was part of a broader localization effort to tone down sexualized imagery for the Western audiences, especially since Pokemon was marketed heavily to kids outside of Japan. And that's where we'll leave things for now, standing at the gates of Violet City, ready to take on our first real step into Johto. In the next episode, we'll explore more of the world and cover the Japanese origins behind the new Pokemon names, and keep comparing how English and Japanese versions tell their stories. If you liked this video, please give it a like. It helps the channel grow. Leave a comment to let me know what detail surprised you the most, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next part of Zero's journey. Your support means a lot, and it keeps this series going. Till next time.